Hello everyone, what's up? Prince 15 here with another episode review of Star Wars Skeleton Crew. So this is going to be the fourth episode of 8, so somehow we're already halfway here. I have to say, just right off the top, before I really get into details, as time has gone on, when we've only got 8 episodes to go through, I get a little annoyed when they drop 2 episodes on one day for like the premiere. It's like, hey, watch the premiere. It's 2 episodes. It's like, okay, that's a fourth of the runtime. It's like, maybe don't do that and actually spread it out to 8 weeks instead of 7, which to me just seems weird. It's like that's an odd number. It's like why wouldn't you want an even number? But so it's like I would kind of like it to last like one more week, at least for things at least for things I'm engaged in. But granted, then we've got stuff like the Acolyte was like, well, that was probably better. That was over as fast as possible. But Bad Batch, like Bad Batch, that last season of Bad Batch, they dropped 3 episodes of their 16 or whatever in the last season. So it's like you could have spread that out another 2 extra weeks. But I'm not the one that makes the schedule at Disney Plus. So anyway, I just wanted to say that that's kind of a little thing that irks me just ever so slightly, just right off the top before we got started. So with that out of the way, let's actually talk details of the episode. And we're doing Treasure Planet. Awesome. I love this. It's like, so for anyone that's seen the Disney animated movie Treasure Planet out there, obviously it's a sci-fi take on Treasure Island, which is also something that Disney's done ad nauseum. They did the original live action one from like the 50s, which also, if you haven't seen that movie like ever in a long time, do yourself a favor and go back and watch it, because it's actually really impressive. Looking at that movie, it's like they made this movie in like the late 50s or the early 60s or something. And the scale and scope of it's actually quite impressive, even by like today's standards. Like I'm pretty sure they built an entire pirate ship for that movie. It's like, that's kind of cool. It's like, because like even with Pirates of the Caribbean stuff, like there's some shots of some ships that like, yeah, they did build full scale, at least for the earlier ones like 1, 2, and 3. But then you know there's still a lot of CG in that movie. But in the 50s, they couldn't do that. So yeah, it's just a lot. So it's like, yeah, that pirate ship's, I'm pretty sure that pirate ship is there. So that's kind of cool. But anyway, so obviously Treasure Planet is a take on Treasure Island, and but they made it like a couple small changes to Treasure Planet to give it that more sci-fi thing. One of them being that the marooned crew member on the island, Ben Gunn, is a robot, and he partially helps keep the secret of where the treasure is because Captain Flint removed his memory banks, and so he can't remember where it is. And so I caught on to this last episode, and I can't remember if I said it in the review or not, but 33, like every time Atten is brought up, he's like, I can't say I remember no Atten. It's like, and so I like the fact that he kept saying that a bunch. I think last episode I started cluing into the fact that, oh, he knows where it is, but his memories have been wiped of the location. Interesting. So I started cluing into that last week, and it's confirmed in the final moments of this episode here. So like, yeah, that's they're basically doing the thing from Treasure Planet, which I really like. Treasure Planet is probably one of the biggest influences on my life, because that was the earliest like sci-fi anything I really got into, and it was a good bridge, because originally, like the thing I was into above anything else was actually pirates. Like I don't even know how I even discovered pirates as a concept. I think I just saw like the big sailing ships. I'm like, that's dope, I'm in. And that was kind of it. So before I was really into Star Wars, like pirates were the thing. So then Treasure Planet comes out, and it's this sci-fi pirates. And I'm like, okay, it's still a Treasure Island thing. It's pirates. So I went and saw that. So that was a bridge to then later when I was finally shown Star Wars in like kindergarten. That was like the bridge connector thing for me to understand what Star Wars was from like a genre level thing, because I'd seen Treasure Island or Treasure Planet. So seeing now Star Wars taking that, for me, this is almost like a full circle thing. Like my entire life, my 26 years on this planet, have come full circle almost, where it started with pirates, then it moved to sci-fi, then Star Wars specifically, and then now we've got and sci-fi, Star Wars, and now Star Wars is doing pirates, and they've done pirates for a long time, but they're specifically doing Treasure Island, which is slash Treasure Planet, which I think is awesome. So, so yeah, I'm very thumbs upping where we are going with this story arc, and what the kind of idea is here, and so talking about the world building here. So it's like, so yeah, that's the big plot reveal, and I really like that. So talking about the world building, I like the planet of Ad Akram, and the fact that it is one of these old jewels of the Old Republic that's been abandoned, and so then like there's just now these warring tribes that have been left to fight amongst themselves in this kind of abandoned backwater planet. And so that's I think that's I think that's cool. I like that the being able to look at the things and going, okay, that's the school, that's this is one of the neighborhoods, that's like the headquarters tower or whatever, and seeing it all ruined and desolate, and it's like, okay, so some of these worlds were at least partially they were cookie cutter, where it's like they had a template that they followed, and they went around to all these different worlds, and I wonder if some of them each served a purpose. Because the thing about Aten that I'm seeing some people speculate on the internet, I'm like, that seems very likely, is that Aten was where the credits were minted at one point in time. So that's why they've got all these mint condition, pristine Republic credits, and these kids are running around with them, even though that currency hasn't been in use in like 2 or 3 generations now, because the Empire took over, and now it's the New Republic. So like this really is like, these Republic credits really are, especially brand new like this, really are kind of like Spanish gold or something like that. So I think that's a really, if that is what they're going for, which very possible, I think that's really cool. And like each of these old jewels of the Old Republic having like some sort of function, like maybe one of them grew a bunch of crops, so like it was a big farming community or something, and then like Aten was the mint where they made a lot of the currency and etc. So and now another thing, it's like, okay, so how long has Aten been marooned and cut off from the rest of the galaxy? And so I'm wondering if they're going to bring in some High Republic lore, and when they had that big hyperspace disaster during the days of the High Republic, if that was what initially cut Aten off from the rest of the galaxy. Like the hyperspace lanes got disrupted, and they went around to several of these planets later, those that knew where they were, and was like, oh wow, this is desolate, it's abandoned because this disaster hit these planets, and there's nothing we can do, so we just gotta leave. And then there was small pockets of survivors on them, and now on Akram you've got these kind of warring tribes, which I found interesting, and I'm wondering, because this episode ends not on a cliffhanger, but there's clearly things unresolved. So because I was kind of expecting for where this episode was going to end, is that this episode was going to be, the kids are going to bring the 2 warring tribes together, and they're going to leave the planet better than they found it. And that's kind of a trope. We've seen stuff like that before. I mean, it's been done to death. Avatar: The Last Airbender even makes fun of itself for doing an episode like that, and everyone kind of calling it pointless because of how kind of derivative it is, and been done before and everything. So I was kind of expecting that to be where this episode ended, but no, it doesn't happen. They find this information, and Neil faints, and then the episode's over. So I suppose it's still possible that they are doing that plot line, they are doing that storyline, and it's going to be the plot of the next episode. But at the same time, the next episode could just start, and they're just back in hyperspace, and they've left, and they're going to go to another one of these old jewels of the Old Republic. If that's what they kind of start doing here, I think that's going to be really interesting, because they make a point when they're going around the room and there's all the pillars with all the coordinates on them, that we've got coordinates for all these planets except at Aten, and the reason we don't have that is because it was 33 that destroyed the coordinates based on his old captain's orders. So I am curious, because if I were these kids in this situation, what I would be thinking is like, okay, let's go. We've got the coordinates for all these other planets now. Let's start jumping to them and see if the Aten coordinates are still intact on those planets. And so I'm wondering if now with the course of the show, how it's going to go is that each episode is they're going to be jumping around to one or two planets an episode, because they could do a montage in one episode where they go, oh nope, this one's not going to work. Oh, this one's a volcanic wasteland, that's not going to work. Okay, here's one we can settle down here and figure stuff out. So I wonder if they're gonna do that. And then I'm also wondering what Akram was in terms of the fact that they've got Eopes running around. I'm wondering if, as I mentioned a minute ago, because I'm just now thinking about this as I'm talking out loud, I am kind of wondering if maybe Akram was the farming world I kind of mentioned. So, but it's got suburbs and stuff, and I don't know why you need to build suburbs if you had a farming world. I mean, maybe for the workers that would work in like the industrial agriculture plants or something like that. I don't know, but anyway, so I wonder. So yeah, I'm wondering if that's the direction they're going, where now they're going to start jumping between planets, and obviously they need to figure out a way to fix 33 to make him loyal and not a killer murder bot anymore. And also another thing I'm wondering is like, are they going to find somewhere along the line? Are they going to find his missing eye? And then plugging that in will then be the final piece of the puzzle that restores their ability to find Aten. And that's going to turn off the murder bot mode. And then again, that's also going to be kind of fulfilling the treasure planet once Ben gets his memories back. Then he remembers, oh wait, there's a booby trap, and then like the whole thing starts to blow up. But kind of using that to restore 33, I think could be interesting. And but then the thing with that, but then the little rat creature doesn't have a home. So what are they going to do with that? I don't know. But yeah, some interesting world building going on. I like the fact that they're going all treasure planet, treasure island. That's really cool. And again, also like the pirate captain that 33 served, killing anyone who knew the location of Aten. I mean, that's straight up Captain Flint. That's what he did to all of his men that knew the location of Treasure Island / Treasure Planet. So that tracks. So I guess the only other thing I have to say for this episode is I focused on like the ending and the world building. I think the rest of the episode is fine. I do like that because like I was saying, is that I really thought the episode was going to end one way, and then they kind of subverted my expectations. Because I think they do a pretty good job of leading you to that thought with all the smoke, and they're out on this patrol, and then Jod just shows back up, and he's got the EOPs, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I paid for them." It's like, "Oh okay." It's like, we didn't have the budget for another blaster fight. Got it. And it's like, no, I don't think that's what it was. But I think that's, like I said, it's possible that like the next episode they're going to fulfill that plot line of making sure everyone on this planet makes peace. But I liked the interactions between Neil and the girl, and it felt very 80s, and the slightly older girl learning a lesson from the naive younger boy. And it's like again, this is stuff that we've seen before in other stuff, but we've never really totally seen it in Star Wars. So I like the Star Wars take on it, even if they so far at least haven't really done too much new. That's why I'm curious if like, is the next episode going to continue this plot line and kind of present some new things to it? So yeah, that all worked fine. I like that, and say that's another thing where they reveal the great big defense turret on top of the school, but they never use it. That's a hard, fast, at this point, age-old rule in writing, Chekhov's gun. If you introduce a gun into the plot, it must be fired or used somehow by the end of your story. So they've introduced this giant defense cannon. I feel like it has to be used. So again, I'm kind of feeling like the next episode is them going to be like, okay, well, now we've got all these coordinates. We can start jumping to these other planets, but we have to get back to our ship first. And there are these two angry tribes that are constantly attacking one another. So I don't really think we're quite done with Ad Akram yet, but I guess we'll find out. So, and also it's like the chieftain or whatever of this one tribe. There's too much of an odd character energy to him where it's like, there's something screwy with him, something's not quite right. So for them to just kind of introduce him and not follow through on the kind of the obvious vibes I got, and just for them to leave and it's like, all right, well, that was a fun little adventure and never revisit that again. It's like, That would be a little odd, but I don't know. Maybe they would just do that to help the world building for you to help figure out the things that are going on. Yeah. So, um, so yeah, I liked all that. It was kind of it was a basic episode. It's like at this point, I feel like we've established the character dynamics pretty well, and now we're really kind of starting to dig deeper into the characters a little bit. Like I think my favorite scene of the episode, actually, even as much as I did like it's like, oh hey, we're just clearly doing Treasure Planet. That's awesome. I think my favorite episode or my favorite scene from the episode was when Wim and Fern have their little discussion by the window. And it was a little wink, wink, nudge, nudge, meta conversation to a degree at the end, where it's like where she kind of, because he's like, we've seen scenes like this 1,000 times, where one character is upset and another character goes up to comfort them, and something they say kind of helps nudge them in the right direction, and they realize something about themselves or the situation, and that allows them to overcome their obstacle. And so I do really like and again, this is stuff we've seen before, but I did really like it coming from these characters specifically, because in their time, it's only been like a day and a half, 2 days. Like they've been, but they're all like, in the 9 to 12-year-old range. So they're still really young kids. This is the longest they've ever been away from home. And so Fern has done a lot to really keep the group together. And she's, again, clearly the oldest. She's the one that's part of the reason why she's really taking charge. But and so she has been this really strong leader type character. But I do like seeing her actually break down here and showing that she is still just a kid, and she is way in over her head, and it's finally gotten to her after the 2 days or whatever they've been gone, where it's kind of been go go go, and now that things have kind of settled, she's kind of losing it a little bit, and she's crying by the window, thinking that maybe they're never going to get home after all, and her admitting that for the first time, she has no idea what she's doing, and she's just making everything up as she goes along and running on instinct. And then Wim agreeing, it's, because he was the one that wanted to go out on the adventure and have this great quest and everything, and wanted to be the hero of this story. But then, and he's like, oh, because even when they're trying to leave the moon in the last episode, Jod tells Neil to take the reins of the ship. He's like, why does Neil get to fly? And so he's always kind of had this little bit of, he wants to be the center of attention. He wants to be the hero. But he's old enough, mature enough, and smart enough to know that if he were in charge, they would have all been dead within 5 minutes. And so I do like that he does fess up and go, no, it's like you were the correct person to be the captain. I would have messed everything up, and you've gotten us this far. And so I do really like that kind of nice little sincere moment between the two of them. And then this is where the kind of wink, wink, nudge, nudge meta-ness of the conversation comes in, where she goes like, so what do you think? Just, helping me feel better is suddenly going to solve our situation. We're still stuck here. It's not like I'm a droid that you just tell to feel better. And then she gets the idea. It's like, okay, that's funny because you know what you're doing. We've seen scenes like this 1,000 times before. And so it's like you're still doing it, but you're nudging the audience going, yeah, we know what we're doing. So I did really like that. Like, I did kind of laugh inwardly at that. Like, I see what you're doing. So yeah. I think that's really all I had for this episode. Favorite quote from the episode is "Baby, get on board, baby." It's like Nick Frost is so eating up this role. He is so happy to be in Star Wars, and I can tell. And I'm loving the fact that he's loving it. I'm really liking 33 as a character, even as bipolar as he is, where he's like, "Oh, you're my captain. I want to help you, but I'm going to tear you limb from limb because you want to know where Atten is." It's like I'm just loving that character so much. It's like say what you will about Disney era Star Wars, but I think they have pretty much nailed all of the droid characters. Like the droid characters are always so memorable and so well done in this current era of Star Wars. I know BB-8 was divisive in the beginning when he was first introduced. It's like I didn't even like him either until I realized he was a practical prop. It's like, that's totally fake. You couldn't make that work. And it's like, oh shoot, they made it work. Wow, okay. So BB-8 really grew on me. K2SO is, of course, a legend. Chopper is the most homicidal maniac this side of the Empire, and I love him for it. I think maybe the weakest droid character is probably Dio from The Rise of Skywalker, but that's because he's a character from The Rise of Skywalker, so it's not really his fault. And now you've got SM-33, and I love droid characters. They're so great. So, yeah, so like I said, I think that's really all I have for this episode. So I'm very much looking forward to the next episode, which comes out on like Christmas Eve or whatever, which, okay, I'll watch some Star Wars on Christmas Eve. Awesome. So, yeah, so that'll be pretty much it for this review. So I will be back next week, hopefully. So that is the thing, though, is that because it's Christmas time, it's holidays, family stuff going on, I'm not 100% certain if I will be back with a review of next week's episode. I'm going to try my hardest to get one out on Friday, as per the usual. But if there's no review on next Friday, you can probably understand why. But I mean, it's the holidays. Everyone's getting together, a family. There's all sorts of things going on. So yeah. But anyway, yeah, so that'll be it for this review. So thank you for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that great stuff. Remember to follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Those links are in the description below, and I'll see you guys next time, whenever that may be. So thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.